Now to new details in the investigation into the Gene Hackman, who received an emotional tribute at last night's Oscars just days after he and his wife were found under suspicious circumstances.
The discovery of a secret room inside the mansion of the recently deceased Gene Hackman sent shockwaves through law enforcement and the public alike. When the FBI, acting on a tip, entered the sprawling estate of the legendary actor, they had no idea what they were about to stumble upon. Hackman, known for his intense performances and enigmatic personal life, had passed away just weeks earlier, leaving behind a home filled with memorabilia, artwork, and now a sinister mystery that would make even the most seasoned agents turn pale. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The mansion itself was a testament to Hackman's successful career, a grand estate with towering walls and lavish decor that whispered stories of Hollywood's golden era. Nestled in an exclusive neighborhood, it had been his retreat from the spotlight, a sanctuary where he had spent his later years. Yet, hidden beneath its grand exterior lay a secret so unsettling that even the trained professionals of the FBI hesitated before stepping further inside. It began with an anonymous tip, a cryptic warning that something unnatural lay hidden within the house. Whether it was a longtime associate, a disgruntled employee, or someone else who knew Hackman's private world remains unclear, but the FBI could not ignore the message. Upon their arrival, the mansion was eerily quiet, the air heavy with the stillness of a home recently abandoned by its owner. Paintings lined the walls, trophies and awards sat untouched, and the grand piano in the foyer bore a thin layer of dust, as if waiting for its master's hands to bring it to life once more. The agents conducted a meticulous sweep, searching for anything that might give credence to the mysterious tip. The mansion, despite its opulence, held an undeniable tension, an unseen presence that seemed to linger in its many rooms. Then, behind a large bookshelf in Hackman's private study, they found it. A hidden latch, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, unlocked a heavy, soundproofed door. What lay beyond was a room unlike any other in the mansion. It was windowless, cold, and disturbingly out of place amidst the warmth of the rest of the house. As the agents stepped inside, their breath caught in their throats. The dim lighting flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. In the center of the room stood an antique wooden chair, its surface worn from use. Surrounding it were shelves lined with old, leather-bound books, their covers faded, their pages filled with writing that seemed both meticulous and frenzied. The air carried a musty scent, the kind that clings to places forgotten by time. On one wall, an array of black and white photographs had been carefully arranged. They depicted people, some famous, others unknown, captured in candid, unguarded moments. Many of the faces bore expressions of unease, as if they had been caught off guard or photographed without their knowledge. Some of the pictures were decades old, their edges curling, while others seemed recent. The realization sent a shiver down the agents' spines. Who were these people? And why had Hackman, a man known for his on-screen roles, been keeping these images hidden away? In the far corner of the room sat an old projector and a stack of film reels, their canisters covered in a fine layer of dust. One of the agents, despite an overwhelming sense of dread, reached for the nearest reel and carefully loaded it onto the projector. As the images began to play on the opposite wall, silence fell over the room. The footage was grainy, flickering with age, but its content was unmistakable. It showed gatherings, conversations, and sometimes even arguments, scenes that should not have been documented, yet here they were. As the films played, the realization became more chilling. Some of the footage was of Hackman himself, captured in what should have been private moments. Others showed figures of influence, politicians, Hollywood elites, and other recognizable faces, engaged in conversations that seemed at best confidential and at worst incriminating. Had Hackman been recording these moments himself, or had someone else entrusted him with these secrets? One of the most disturbing discoveries lay in a set of locked drawers beneath the photographs. Once forced open, they revealed stacks of handwritten notes, letters, and documents detailing cryptic interactions between individuals in the entertainment industry and beyond. Some of the documents referenced coded exchanges, suggesting a web of influence that extended far beyond Hollywood. The deeper the agents delved, the more tangled the mystery became. A sense of foreboding settled over the room as the realization set in. This was not just a hidden space for keepsakes or personal musings. It was a vault of secrets, a carefully curated collection of information that someone had gone to great lengths to keep hidden. What had Hackman been involved in? Was this a personal archive, or had he been part of something much larger? As the agents combed through the findings, they began piecing together a narrative that was more convoluted than they had anticipated. Certain names appeared repeatedly in the notes, accompanied by dates and cryptic references to events that, on the surface, seemed mundane. However, when cross-referenced with historical records, patterns began to emerge. These were not just diary entries or random observations, they were detailed accounts of interactions that, if exposed, could alter perceptions of some of the most powerful figures in the world. Even more disturbing were the unmarked tapes found in a small locked cabinet. Unlike the others, these had no labels, no indication of their contents. When played, they revealed footage of people who appeared unaware they were being recorded, private meetings, whispered conversations, and unsettling encounters in dimly lit rooms. Some of the voices were recognizable, their words carrying implications that sent chills down the agents' spines. But the most haunting aspect of the room was not the evidence itself. It was the overwhelming sense that Hackman had been guarding something much darker than just industry secrets. Had he been a collector of information, or had he been coerced into keeping these records? The questions mounted as the agents continued their search, but no clear answers presented themselves. The realization that Hackman had lived out his final days knowing this room existed beneath his very feet was unsettling. Had he feared discovery? Had he planned to reveal these secrets before his passing? Or had he always intended for them to remain buried with him? The walls of the room, heavy with their burden, seemed to absorb the weight of these unanswered questions. As the FBI meticulously documented their findings, they could not shake the feeling that they had uncovered something far bigger than one man's hidden collection. There was no immediate explanation for why Hackman had kept these files, and no clear indication of whether he had been working alone or as part of a greater network. One thing, however, was certain. Whatever had been hidden in that room had the power to shake foundations, to challenge the narratives long accepted by the public. The agents knew that their next steps would have to be taken with extreme caution. They had walked into a mystery far greater than a simple Hollywood legend's secrets. The implications of their findings could send shockwaves through the highest echelons of power. The mansion, once a symbol of success and artistic brilliance, had become something else entirely. An unmarked grave for secrets long buried, now unearthed in the most chilling manner possible. As they left the room, sealing it once more behind them, a single question lingered in their minds. Had Hackman taken the full truth to his grave, or had he left behind a trail meant to be followed? The weight of the discovery inside Gene Hackman's mansion settled heavily upon the FBI agents as they prepared to examine the depths of what they had just stumbled upon. The room, dark and foreboding, was not just an archive of secrets. It was a carefully curated repository of knowledge, one that was never meant to be uncovered. And yet, here they stood, confronted by something that challenged their understanding of the late actor's life. Every surface in the hidden chamber was covered with something of significance. Old reels, yellowed documents, black and white photographs, and handwritten notes gave the impression of a mind that had spent years, possibly decades, amassing details of people and events. But it was not just the quantity of what was hidden, it was the nature of it. This was not a collection of nostalgia, not the remnants of a career spent in Hollywood. These were pieces of a puzzle that, when fully assembled, might expose something deeply unsettling about the world behind closed doors. One of the agents, his pulse pounding in his ears, carefully picked up a stack of papers from the desk in the center of the room. They were covered in Hackman's own handwriting, the ink slightly smudged in places as though written with haste or nervousness. The words were cryptic, fragmented notes that alluded to conversations, meetings, and exchanges that spanned years. Some passages mentioned specific dates and locations, and a few even bore the names of well-known political figures, film executives, and high-ranking officials. But it was the repetition of certain phrases that sent a chill down his spine. The walls have ears. They never let go. You only know what they allow you to know. What did Hackman mean? Had he been documenting a personal fear, or was this a warning meant for whoever discovered the room? As the agents continued their search, the discoveries only became more bizarre. A locked metal box, rusted at the edges, sat in the farthest corner of the room. It took significant effort to pry it open, but when they did, what lay inside made their stomachs churn. It contained old cassette tapes, some labeled in Hackman's neat script, others left unmarked. The names on some of the tapes were shocking. Figures who were still alive, still powerful, still controlling narratives. When the first cassette was played on a dusty tape recorder found nearby, a grainy voice filtered through, unmistakably belonging to Hackman himself. His tone was low, almost hushed, as if he had recorded this in secret. They tell you it's just a role, that it's just a script. But that's not the truth. The scripts are written by them. The roles are chosen by them. You don't get to just walk away. If you try, you disappear. The agents exchanged uneasy glances. Who were they? And what was Hackman implying? The next tape was even more disturbing. It wasn't Hackman speaking this time, but a voice that was difficult to identify, possibly recorded from a hidden microphone. The words were disjointed, panicked. They see everything. There are no real accidents, no real deaths, only decisions. You stay quiet, you get to live, you start asking questions, and suddenly you're gone. The weight of what they were listening to settled over the team like a thick fog. If these recordings were genuine, they suggested something far bigger than just Hollywood intrigue. They hinted at a structured, deliberate force that dictated who rose to fame, who fell from grace, and who was erased entirely. As they combed through more of the tapes, the realization struck them. Some of these voices belonged to individuals who had mysteriously vanished or died under suspicious circumstances. Actors, politicians, journalists, people who had either faded into obscurity or met untimely ends. Was Hackman trying to piece together a larger story? Had he spent years gathering evidence? And if so, why? One of the most alarming discoveries was a series of notebooks stored in a concealed compartment within the desk. These weren't just Hackman's personal reflections, they were records. Logs of phone calls, meetings, and transactions that hinted at a network operating beneath the surface of the entertainment industry. Some pages referenced coded messages and clandestine gatherings at exclusive locations, where deals were made that had nothing to do with film contracts or box office earnings. Some of the names listed in these logs had already been publicly linked to scandals, while others had managed to keep their reputations untainted. But in Hackman's records, they were all tied together in ways that suggested something far more insidious. The details suggested a system of control, one that determined who succeeded, who failed, and who was sacrificed for the greater interests of an unseen force. A faded envelope tucked inside one of the notebooks contained even more startling material. Inside were photographs, some of them instantly recognizable, others less so. Some were images of famous Hollywood stars at exclusive high-profile events, but others were taken in more secretive locations, places not meant to be seen by the public. A few of these images depicted men and women engaged in discussions with people who, on the surface, had no business being in the same room together. One photograph in particular stood out. It showed Hackman himself, much younger, seated at a table with individuals who appeared deep in conversation. His expression was guarded, his hands clasped together as though he were either being given instructions or being warned. Had he been pulled into something early in his career? Was he a participant? Or had he merely been an observer? And had he spent his later years trying to escape whatever it was that had entangled him? As the FBI agents documented their findings, a growing sense of dread settled over them. The deeper they delved into the room's contents, the clearer it became that Hackman had been sitting on a secret far larger than anyone had imagined. The question now was, had his death been natural, or had it been convenient? There were no immediate signs of foul play in Hackman's passing, but the timing of this discovery was suspicious. If someone had known about the existence of this room, had they acted before its secrets could be revealed? Or had Hackman himself anticipated that one day, these files would be found? As they prepared to transport the materials for further analysis, one agent noticed something odd about the way the room was structured. The walls, though lined with shelves and cabinets, seemed thicker than necessary. A closer inspection revealed that a section of the back wall was hollow. With growing apprehension, they carefully removed the paneling, revealing yet another hidden compartment. What lay inside made their blood run cold. A collection of VHS tapes separate from the rest sat neatly arranged in a row. Unlike the film reels and cassettes, these were not labeled. Their unassuming appearance only made them more ominous. With caution, the agents took one of the tapes and inserted it into a player found nearby. The screen flickered to life, revealing grainy footage that appeared to be shot in secret. The camera was shaky, the angle slightly off, as if whoever had been filming had done so covertly. A room, dimly lit, came into focus. A long table sat at the center, surrounded by shadowed figures. Voices murmured, some familiar, others not. The conversation was cryptic, yet undeniably tense. "He knows too much. We warned him." A pause. "But he's not talking, is he?" A longer silence. Then a final chilling response. "Not yet." The tape cut to static. The agents stared at the screen, their minds racing. Had Hackman been present at this meeting? Had he been the one they were discussing? And most disturbingly, had they made sure he never spoke? The weight of the discovery was suffocating. If these tapes contained more evidence of whatever it was that Hackman had been trying to document, then the implications were staggering. One thing was certain. This was not just the hidden room of a Hollywood actor. This was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something that, if exposed, could send shockwaves through industries far beyond film. And now, the people who had tried to keep it hidden would know it had been found. The air inside Gene Hackman's hidden chamber felt heavier now, almost oppressive, as if the weight of the secrets it held was pressing down on the agents standing within it. Every new discovery only deepened the mystery, and with it, an overwhelming sense of unease. It was no longer just about what Hackman had known. It was about who else had been aware of this room and what lengths they might have gone to in order to ensure its contents never saw the light of day. The tapes, the documents, the photographs, each piece was a fragment of something vast, something carefully hidden for years, if not decades. The realization struck the agents hard. Hackman hadn't simply been a collector of secrets, he had been living inside one. His life had been intertwined with something larger than himself, something that had persisted in the shadows, controlling the fate of those who crossed into its path. Whether willingly or unwillingly, he had become a guardian of knowledge that was never meant to be exposed. A closer examination of the remaining VHS tapes only confirmed their worst fears. As they meticulously cataloged each one, noting the condition of the cases and scanning for identifying marks, they found a single thin envelope wedged behind the last tape in the row. Its presence was odd. Unlike the others, it hadn't been stored with care. It was as if someone had hastily shoved it into the crevice. Perhaps in a moment of panic or desperation, with gloved hands, one of the agents opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, brittle with age. The words, scrawled in hurried penmanship, sent an immediate chill through the room. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone. I tried to get out. I tried to stop them. I failed." There was no signature, no name to confirm the identity of the writer, but the implication was clear. Someone, perhaps Hackman himself, or someone who had once occupied this space, had left this message as a warning. But a warning about what? They would need to take every artifact, every piece of evidence, and analyze it in detail. This was no longer just an investigation into a hidden room. This was something far more dangerous. If Hackman had been documenting a conspiracy, then whoever had orchestrated it would not take kindly to their secrets being unearthed. One agent instinctively glanced toward the study's windows, half expecting to see movement in the shadows beyond. The mansion, though grand and silent, no longer felt like a place of mere solitude. It felt watched. With deliberate efficiency, the team worked quickly, packing up the most critical materials for secure transport. But as they carried the boxes out, a single question lingered in their minds. Had Hackman known this moment would come? Had he spent his last days waiting for the inevitable knock at his door, knowing that his past, his secrets, would eventually consume him? And more terrifyingly, if he had been silenced, who was next? As the last box was sealed and prepared for transport, the mansion loomed in eerie silence, its grandeur now tainted by the weight of revelation. The agents, though trained for high-stakes investigations, couldn't shake the feeling that they had crossed into something beyond their control. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, an unsettling reminder that knowledge once uncovered could never be buried again. Somewhere, someone would soon realize what had been found. And then, the real question would emerge. Not just what Hackman had known, but who would be willing to do anything to keep that knowledge buried forever. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us. What are your thoughts on the FBI finding a secret room in Gene Hackman's mansion? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.